arms and legs. We're going to now have an iSpot TV sponsored session with Stu and with GroupM's Mike Fisher and Gerard Broussard of Premeditated Media. Please join us.
Hey, everybody. And thank you to iSpot, Stu, and the rest of the team for hosting GroupM at this event and allowing us to show off some of the great work we've done in partnership with them over the last year to year and a half. I'm Mike Fisher. I am the Executive Director of Investment Innovation at GroupM. My team is responsible for really driving forward a consolidated GroupM vision across how we engage with the ecosystem as GroupM investment across media, data, and tech. And one of the key things that we've partnered on with iSpot that you may have heard about in the news over the last year or so is the work we've done in something we're calling continuous play. A challenge that is not necessarily a new challenge to people in the TV space, but has been a challenge that's been difficult to measure historically in the past. Really starting to look at not just when an impression is delivered via connected TV, but making sure that that impression is delivered to a TV that is turned on, given that over 50% of connected TV impressions are delivered to external devices like Apple TVs, Rokus, Fire TVs, PlayStations, and Xboxes. And because they're not being delivered at the glass level inside of the operating system of the television, it's sometimes difficult to qualify and quantify how many of these impressions were actually seen, or how many of these played out on devices where somebody may have been streaming, turned off the TV, but forgot to exit out of their streaming app, and the app continues to play. And this is something that a lot of you in the audience may have experienced yourself. I know it's something that I experienced in my streaming, which is how we first found out about the issue. And we reached out to iSpot, knowing that they have a massive amount of automated content recognition glass level ACR data, and challenged them to partner with us to build a product that we now have in the marketplace in conjunction with them. And we're going to talk a little bit about the data that we saw when we did our initial study, and also what we're seeing across the marketplace. So this is an issue that GroupM believes that the industry wants to solve together. Everybody talks about connected TV as being 100% viewable, fraud-free. Connected TV in general is, if you're buying the right way, a very safe way to buy media. Most of connected TV is transacted directly from the end seller. These are trusted partners. We know what we're buying is who we're buying it from. We don't really have to worry about seller fraud in connected TV if we're buying from trusted partners. But we do want to make sure that our buys are resonating for not just viewers, but also clients, and that what we're buying is transparent and accountable across the ecosystem. So we set out with iSpot, as I said, to really measure what we call continuous play. And we're excited to show you guys some of the results. So for the first ever quantification of this issue, what we did is we looked at 6 months worth of GroupM impression data delivered to connected TV external devices, as I said earlier, and really challenged iSpot to say, we have a timestamp. We know the households we delivered an ad to using ad server logs. We gave ad server logs to iSpot and said, go out and see how many of these impressions you can verify that the TV that device was deterministically plugged into was in fact turned on, and seeing content appearing on the glass. And what we found was roughly 15 to 20% of the impressions we sent iSpot were being shown to TVs that were turned off. Now, I want to clarify again, this is not ad fraud. This is a disconnect and mismatch between how a television talks to that third-party external device. And we believe this issue is fixable over time. We've been pushing the market, the ecosystem more broadly, to come up with solutions for this. So having this data as part of that initial study we did with iSpot was critical to driving forward some of the change that we're going to talk about later on through this presentation. And basically what we were able to prove out is that across the board, this issue is in fact seen on these external devices, but is not seen at scale at people who are using smart TV OS layer to watch TV. However, we have started to see that some newer smart TVs instead of being turned off when you press the power button, go into a power saving state. And the operating system doesn't always do as good of a job of signaling to the app that they should stop pulling content, but that's the conversation for phase 2. For this phase 1 approach, we looked at the external devices plugged into the back of TVs using HDMI connection. And this was a study that we had took up a lot of the last year and a half, starting in early March of 2021, actually, where we first identified the hypothesis that this was happening. Partnering with iSpot throughout 2022 to look at a massive 6 to 9 month amount of data, pull together and fully productize iSpot's solution, work with media sellers and device manufacturers to really brief them on the issue and get them aligned to that. This is not a way for us looking to get make goods for impressions. This is us as GroupM looking to lean forward and provide leadership for our clients and solve industry-wide challenges similar to other industry-wide challenges GroupM has tackled over the last 15 years. Leading up through summer and fall of last year, when we were able to put together a complete case study that we went out to market with. And now I'm excited to say we're actually in market with live clients who are currently utilizing iSpot's unified measurement pixel, inclusive of continuous play, to be able to measure not just the occurrence of how continuous play is impacting actual client campaigns, but all the other metrics from iSpot's unified measurement solution as well. And the methodology behind this is fairly simple. We, as the buyer, have access to connected TV ad logs. We know who we buy from, when we buy it, and when it shows up. iSpot has their panel. I think some of these numbers are actually a little bit outdated based on the numbers that Stu just shared previous. But really looking at iSpot's massive amount of reach when it comes to unified ACR data and being able to match up. We know we serve that ad at this time on this device. When iSpot detects that, they log that, and they're able to put those two data sets together. Now, all of the data that you're about to see is panel-based. It's looking at the percentages of continuous play metrics. We don't look at them as actual numbers. We look at them as percentages, because this first round of data only really incorporates iSpot's data set. So there is also other ACR data out there that's not currently bringing in continuous play measurement, which is why we talk about things in a percentage world. So now I'll share some high-level findings that you guys may have seen throughout the last couple of months that we've shared. Overall, we saw around a 17% occurrence of continuous play in the date range that we looked at. I'm not a data scientist, but we have very smart data scientists on staff who tell me that a straight line, which this was, is good. There's some variation for weekends, holidays, that's to be expected. But the fact that this was a straight line means that the data is very consistent. And we also saw a lot of variability across the board between different publishers, depending on, or publishers that had similar type of viewing experience. These publisher A and B, and we've blinded this for obvious reasons, are both lean back type publishers where people will start watching something and have content pushed to them. They're not necessarily lean forward on demand. I'm selecting a specific episode to watch type publishers. But you can see there's a massive amount of variation between publisher A, which saw around a 10% occurrence of continuous play, and publisher B that saw around a 20% occurrence of continuous play. You can go to the next slide. And when we reached out to publisher A, that was on the previous slide about that, that's not the same as publisher A on this slide. Publisher A on the previous slide is actually publisher X on this slide. And you can see that on one device, Roku, they saw a higher occurrence of continuous play than on another device, the Amazon Fire TV device. And one of the things we really quickly learned is that it's not just a publisher issue. It's not just a device issue. There's all sorts of reasons for the mismatch, because as you can see, publisher E was much lower on Fire TV than on Roku, but publisher A was much lower on a Roku device than a Fire TV device. And the reason for this is because they're built on different operating systems. It's nothing necessarily that the devices are doing wrong. It's more along the lines of how the apps communicate with the devices, how the devices communicate with the TVs, and how the TVs communicate by sending an I'm turned off signal down to the devices. And our goal is really to bring together not just the publishers, but the Rokus, the Amazons, the Apples, the PlayStations, Xboxes, and the TV manufacturers of the world to really come up with standards to solve this problem. We also saw discrepancies vary based on the type of content that I alluded to earlier. The more lean forward user engaged apps did see a lower of occurrence of continuous play. Put yourselves in a viewer's shoes. The first time you're watching a series where you don't want to lose your place, and you turn on your TV a day later and there's content still showing up through your external device, you very quickly realize you have to remember to press that home button on your remote. For content that is more linear TV style content being pushed at the viewer, it may not matter as much if you lose your place. However, the great news to report, and we'll talk a little bit about this when I talk to Gerard shortly, is in live testing that we're doing currently right now, these numbers have drastically been decreased. And one of the reasons why we're seeing a drastic decrease in this is because we and iSpot have jointly pushed the industry forward on quantifying and qualifying this issue. And publishers have really leaned in with us, enabling "Are you still watching?" prompts to come up and be shown at a much more regular frequency and occurrence, so that people aren't losing their place in what they're watching as regularly. But more importantly, from our business, ads aren't being shown to TVs that are turned off. And then we also did see some behaviors that further validated what we expected to see was in fact true, that those third-party, very small sticks, pucks, dongles that plug in the back of the TV see a much higher occurrence of continuous play than external devices like PlayStations and Xboxes, which are loud. They have fans. They make a lot of noise. People know when they leave their PlayStation on because they have flashing lights on the front. They don't necessarily remember that they left their stick plugged in the back of the TV streaming and turned on because nobody would see it to remember. These are all data points that further validated that the data that we and iSpot were jointly looking at was in fact accurate. And as I've alluded to, we've done a very great job of moving forward the industry. When we first got this data, we sat down with all the key publishers, hardware manufacturers, and standard setting organizations across the ecosystem to brief them on the findings and establish a set of benchmarks around how we would measure, GroupM will measure this moving forward, but also standardizations around when should "Are you still watching?" prompts show up. And what is the more long-term solutions to this? The IAB has spent a lot of time working on how to improve that, bring this into their open measurement SDK, making sure that the signal consistencies and standards are being consumed, and making sure that the best practices already being used by publishers that saw lower occurrence of continuous play in our initial study are being followed through by the broader ecosystem. And GroupM is not stopping with phase one. I'm excited to say that we have launched iSpot verification for measurement in the US. We're currently live with multiple clients, working not just with iSpot on this, but working with media sellers as well to really measure the occurrence of continuous play so that media sellers are able to respond to the marketplace desire to reduce this. This is not meant as a way to penalize media sellers. This is meant as a way to make connected TV more measurable and accountable, reducing the amount of impressions that are being delivered on and billed on, but are not driving success and results for our clients. I'm sure a lot of you who are listening today have heard clients say that CTV doesn't perform as well as linear TV. That doesn't make much sense to us. Once somebody is watching that content on their couch, there should be no differentiator between linear TV and connected TV. One of our hypotheses, and this isn't the only reason, but one of them is that the number of impressions that are being counted in performance modeling is likely overinflated because of the continuous play issue. So things like that have incentivized not just the buy side, but also the sell side and key measurement partners to really come together to solve these challenges. Now I think we're going to have Gerard join and do a little bit of Q&A.
All right, I'm on screen.
I see you.
All right, how you doing, Mike?
Good to see you, Gerard. Gerard and I used to work together way back when.
Yes, it is not even the Stone Age, but I'm kidding. Anyway, back at Canoe Ventures. But listen, I want to first throw out some applause to GroupM and iSpot for taking this initiative. I'm a veteran of the audience research practice that spans back, some decades. And I think this is a great move, and it shows a proactivity on both organizations and helpful to the whole industry. So my hat's off to you. So before I get into some other questions, let me ask you a couple of housekeeping things. Do you have other findings that you can share about the phase 1 study that you haven't mentioned already? If not, that's fine.
Yeah, we do. So one of the things that I had mentioned before was that when we did this initial study, we saw, around an 15 to 20, but more around 18% occurrence of continuous play. That's dropped dramatically, as I said, since we started measuring this with publishers involved in making fixes on their end. Measurement is a key piece of this, but so is involvement of everybody across the ecosystem to reduce this problem. So we are very happy to see the occurrence of continuous play dropping. We will continue to be measuring this. This is not something that is a one and done study. This is now fully productized, and GroupM is recommending that our clients use solutions like this moving forward to not just measure continuous play, but have a better and deeper understanding of the shift and impact that connected TV more broadly has on our clients' ability to reach viewers.
Is there any way that you can characterize the publishers that are leaning in right now to make this happen, or is it just a random cross-section of them?
No, I certainly don't think it's random. I would say that every publisher that we've talked to has leaned in one way or another. So, some have leaned in more to engage with this solution in partnership with iSpot. Others are working on their own solutions that are more ad server level measurement. We do believe that verification and validation is critical. So even the publishers that are working on their own solutions are engaging with iSpot at our behest on the measurement side.
Great. The study showed that the issue of continuous tuning is most pervasive in homes with sticks and boxes rather than straight up apps going over the screen. What percent of homes what is the split between connected devices and just pure app in the TV?
Yeah, so I would say it's around it's around 50-50 with a swing of about 5 to 10% in either direction, dependent on content. For years, there were some very, very high profile apps that had exclusive distribution deals. So people who watch a lot of an app, for example, that was only available on smart TVs and wasn't available on the external devices because of a distribution deal, may be more skewed towards watching, other apps on those devices. But we do see it roughly around a 50% swing, although the usage of smart TVs is rising. There's still the product refresh cycle. People don't buy a new TV every 2 to 3 years to get the latest technology. They buy a new TV every 5 to 7 years. So as TV OSs do become more outdated, halfway through an ownership cycle of a TV, somebody then may say, I want to add an external stick or a box or a device because the operating system has evolved or the speed of it has evolved or the quality has evolved.
Great, thank you. And then the phase 1 study, which you just covered, was on Vizio only sets, correct?
Phase 1 study looked at how these devices interact with Vizio TVs, because that was what the iSpot data set was at that time. We do have some hypotheses that we're going to test in phase 2 around other manufacturers and how they impact this. Again, it's all about signals being sent. If the TV doesn't send an actual hardware signal down the HDMI port to those external devices, that the device is able to understand, consume, and send to the app, then the app could continue to stream. But we also have seen that there are all sorts of reasons why a signal may be sent by the TV, but may not even make it down to the device to parse. If somebody has their TV plugged into a sound bar or a speaker system that could intercept that I'm turned off call that the TV sends. If somebody's using a older or cheaper HDMI cable that doesn't have the two-way capabilities, it can also impact that call. So there's all sorts of reasons why we need consistent measurement and quantification of this issue and can't just look at it in a silo.
So just building on that a little bit, the addition of LG TV sets in phase 2 will obviously expand or almost double the sampling of homes and devices that you guys can cover. What do you expect that might be different that would come out of that work, given the fact that maybe they're ahead of the game in compliance now that you guys have identified an issue?
Yeah.
Have the manufacturers and also the publishers together combined to produce a result potentially that could be, better than the first phase?
Yeah, I would say the work that the publishers have done will really be the driving factor on the improvements. And this is where the complexities of the ecosystem get a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
All of the smart TV manufacturers also have ad sales businesses themselves right now. And, they are going out and bundling supply together and selling to, ads in apps running on their devices. So as an industry, we need to figure out how we also incentivize TV manufacturers to be able to send these signals with the consistency. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges that the industry is going to jointly tackle this year.
Now, when you think about verification in the digital space, there's third parties out there. There's Oracle, Moat, there's Double Verify and so on. It looks like this solution basically is indigenous to the OEM plus, GroupM as an agency holding company. It seems like that looks to be like the model for the next couple of years. Do you see others, third parties maybe coming in and taking a broad stroke approach across all the OEMs?
Yes, absolutely. And we encourage third parties to really be leading the way. We're pretty progressive as an agency holding company, but we're still an agency holding company. We're not an ad tech development shop by any means, which is why we partnered with iSpot on this. Working with partners, trusted partners across the ecosystem is going to be critical for us, and offering our clients the ability to choose, be influenced by GroupM, but still have choice and selection of how they measure, why they measure, what they measure with third-party verification is going to be critical moving forward.
The last presentation, Stuart talked about the combination of panel technology with big data. What is your point of view as an agency on the functionality and utility of panels versus big data?
We don't believe that either one as a standalone solution will capture the opportunity that's currently available in our marketplace, both from a measurement outcomes perspective, but also more long-term from redefining what a modern media cross-screen currency can look like. Big data is critical to better understand and get as much data as possible, moving away from small panels. Yet at the same time, if you're just looking at big data, you lose the nuance of understanding who's engaging, why they're engaging, how these different demographic metrics, makeups, types of viewing plays into it. So we believe that as we look at alternative currencies across the board, as well as new measurement capabilities, it is a combination of panel data used as a calibration and big data used as that underlying data set.
It seems that even though we're moving, the whole industry has moved to advanced targeting with all these intricate data integrations that have taken place across the consumer spectrum and the media spectrum. But we still, in some way, the standard currency is age and gender, and it seems like you guys seem to be addressing that, at least by getting some person's estimates in there. What is your point of view on the split between, let's say, would you buy on age and gender, and then not post or evaluate on the advanced targets? So it looks to me like we're headed to a dual metric system for the next years to come?
I mean, you answered my question. Yeah, I do think for the next year or so, we're going to be on a dual metric system. It's going to vary widely, not just by client, but what the goal and outcome of the campaign is. For demo-based campaigns, measuring reach against traditional measurement is still the standard. But as we move towards more cross-screen, fluid, advanced audience campaigns, having both sets of measurement is important. Especially in a data-driven linear world, if we're using an alternative data-driven audience to plan and buy against, I think the example some of us like to use are left-handed pickup truck owners, right?
Yeah.
You're building a plan to optimize against the ability to reach that audience in linear TV and then extend that into streaming. But you're still in the linear TV portion, at least, getting the full reach of linear. So being able to measure delivery against the strategic target in linear, but also understand what is that standard people 2+ delivery is beneficial to our clients.
Okay, and then I think I'm going to wrap up here with one final question and bring us back to our topic at hand here, which is you guys shoring up for the media, the measurement discrepancy of the two TV. So how do you feel what's happening out there in the marketplace about the trust of connected TV? And I know there's the fraud issue and everything, but what do you see in the future about handling not only what you guys and iSpot have done, but also in a larger perspective, the fraud and other elements?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before at the beginning, we believe that connected TV more broadly is one of the safest and most accountable ways to reach the audiences that we're looking for on the TV screen, as long as the buys are being made directly from trusted media sellers, conducted via trusted media paths, and that we have that level of transparency, not just who we're being delivered to, but if it's being delivered and how it's being delivered. We do want to understand, app level, genre level transparency, similar to what we know network level or show level transparency when you buy in linear. The industry is coming to expect that in streaming, and we're going to see a lot of momentum in that direction this year in the upfronts.
That's all I have for you.
Thanks, Gerard, and thank you to iSpot again for having me join today and share all the work we're doing with them.